I caught my girlfriend sleeping with the richest boy in college. As revenge, she blackmailed me and accused me of stealing $350,000 from the college. Everyone believes the accusations because I'm the poorest kid on campus. Now the only way I can save myself is by destroying the most important person in my life. My name is Alex, and this is my story. Students, something awful happened today, Professor Berkeley said. Mr. Morgan, our campus finance director, just informed us that someone stole his bank card and account code and stole $350,000. When Mr. Morgan found out that the money had gone, he collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. If anyone knows anything about this matter, report to me immediately. Hearing these words, the students in the classroom exploded into chatter. They never thought that someone could do anything so awful to Mr. Morgan. They were all thinking, if they can't find the money, will Mr. Morgan go to prison? Alex was shocked. Mr. Morgan was his favorite teacher. He was the only one who showed him any kindness while other students and faculty humiliated him for being poor. Alex raised his hand. Mr. Berkeley, how about we raise the money through crowdfunding? Crowdfunding? Mr. Berkeley scowled at him. If we started a crowdfunding platform, what are we going to say we're raising the money for? Mr. Berkeley had always disliked Alex. He continued, should we write, because of personal error, we've lost $350,000. Now we're relying on the public to help. The entire class turned on Alex. One said, brainless idiot. Another added, how did they even let you in this college? You don't belong here. The class laughed in agreement. He wants to frame Mr. Morgan, right? He really doesn't care about people at all. He's lucky that Mr. Morgan treats him so well. Alex took the humiliation in a stride. He was used to it. He just wanted to help Mr. Morgan. All right, everyone, remember this, said Mr. Berkeley. If you have any leads, report to me immediately. Alex walked out of the classroom and found his girlfriend, Debbie. The two of them walked along the path on the campus, discussing the situation. Last semester, it was Mr. Morgan who helped me with the poverty grant. He's really looked out for me. Why did this have to happen to him? Debbie frowned, worrying about Mr. Morgan. Mr. Morgan had helped Debbie a few times, and she really cared about him. Looking at the pained expression on her face, Alex was even more determined to help him. Alex, how about we go and see Mr. Morgan together? He must feel helpless in the hospital. Debbie, you go first. I still have something to do. Debbie was a bit disappointed that he didn't want to go with her to see Mr. Morgan. She saw an unreadable expression in his eyes. She was worried but carried on. Meanwhile, Mr. Berkeley had been working in his office when someone knocked on his door. A girl walked in, swaying her hips with a wry smile on her face. Kathy, it's already so late. What do you want? Mr. Berkeley asked. She clearly couldn't hide her excitement. Mr. Berkeley, I know who stole Mr. Morgan's money. Oh? Mr. Berkeley was interested. The school had promised him $15,000 if he could catch the thief. Who? He asked. Alex. Kathy spat out the name. When Mr. Berkeley had talked about the stolen money earlier, a thought occurred to Kathy. Did Alex take the money? Alex had always been a poor loser who couldn't afford a decent meal, but lately, everything changed. He took Debbie to a posh restaurant for a $1,000 meal and donated another $130,000 without hesitation. Where did this money come from? Alex had said that he'd won $150,000 on the lottery, but he had already spent more than that. Kathy had not been able to figure it out. Suddenly, everything became clear. It must be Alex that stole Mr. Morgan's money, she thought. Alex, you idiot, you were stupid enough to show off the stolen money in front of me. You've been enjoying yourself, haven't you? But just wait, this time I'll ruin your reputation for good. Why do you think it's him? Asked Mr. Berkeley. Do you have any evidence? Kathy sneered and told Mr. Berkeley about Alex's extravagant behavior the last few days. The expensive restaurant, the designer clothes and jewelry for Debbie. It explained everything. Then she told him how Alex also donated $130,000 to a charity. Mr. Berkeley was shocked. The total was well over $150,000. How could that poor student Alex afford all that? But he didn't dare just take Kathy's word for it. He needed more proof. He immediately called two of Kathy's classmates, Steve and Darren, to see if they would corroborate her story. They both backed up what Kathy had said. Mr. Berkeley was certain that Alex stole Mr. Morgan's money. Kathy's eyes flashed with viciousness. Mr. Berkeley, let's hurry up and call the police to arrest him. I'm taking this very seriously, Mr. Berkeley replied. He was an experienced teacher and shrewd. "Let's go to the general hospital first and speak with Mr. Morgan to find out exactly what happened. Once we have more evidence, I'll call the police." Mr. Berkeley drove the car quickly to the hospital with Kathy. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Debbie had been sitting beside Mr. Morgan. Her face was tense with anxiety. "Mr. Morgan, how can anyone be so evil to steal this money? And why would they frame you?" Mr. Morgan looked surprisingly calm. He touched Debbie's face and smiled gently. "Debbie, don't worry about me. I'm sure we'll find out who really did this." He was slightly distracted by Debbie's new outfit and change of style. "Debbie, you and I have known each other for a long time, but I've never seen you dressed as beautifully as you are today. Someone else bought me these clothes." Debbie lowered her head shyly. "Someone else? It's a man, isn't it?" Mr. Morgan asked with a playful tone. Debbie blushed as she softly replied, "Mm-hmm." Mr. Morgan said, "Little Debbie has really grown up. Seeing you looking so happy, I can tell that you and your boyfriend have something really special." He held Debbie's small hand. "And to be able to afford to buy you designer clothes, it seems that this young guy must be doing well for himself." At that moment, the door to the ward was pushed open. Kathy and Mr. Berkeley stormed in. "Why are you here?" Kathy frowned and asked when she saw Debbie. "Who's this girl?" Mr. Berkeley asked. "She's Alex's new girlfriend," Kathy replied as she crossed her arms and looked at Debbie with a cold smile. She continued, "I know what she's here for. I bet she's here to find out Mr. Morgan's secret so that she can report back to Alex." "That's right. This girl is clearly determined to help Alex in his crime," Mr. Berkeley agreed. "What are you talking about?" asked Mr. Morgan. "What crime? Did you find out who it was?" He was completely confused. "Mr. Morgan, do you know who stole your $350,000? It was Alex Ambrose from our class." As she said this, Kathy started to feel exhilarated. "Alex Ambrose, that's impossible. He's not that kind of person." Mr. Morgan shook his head. He knew Alex was poor, but he was sure he would never do such a thing. Kathy replied, "Mr. Morgan, don't be fooled. Do you know how much he donated to a charity? $130,000. How do you think Alex could come up with that kind of money?" When Kathy finished, Mr. Berkeley backed her up. "That's right. I've already asked the school for confirmation." "And?" Kathy's sharp gaze shot toward Debbie. "She's Alex's new girlfriend. Look at her new designer clothes. And that's not the only ones. She's got loads of new clothes. They must have spent a few $1,000s there. Where do you think he got all this money from?" "No, you're framing Alex," Debbie interjected. "He would never do something like that." She looked at Kathy and Mr. Berkeley. Mr. Morgan looked at Debbie and asked, "Debbie, is Alex really your new boyfriend, and did he buy you these expensive clothes?" He was anxious. If Alex had bought Debbie's new clothes, then he had to wonder where the money had come from. "Go on, tell us," Kathy said and smiled smugly. "Are you really in love with Alex? Deny it if you have the guts." "Yes," Debbie answered. Mr. Morgan closed his eyes and leaned weakly against the back of his bed. "Yes, Mr. Morgan finally believes it." Kathy laughed loudly. She looked at Debbie with eyes full of venom as she pulled out her cell phone. "I'm calling the police now so they can arrest both of you two criminals. You'll be going to jail." Debbie was furious. Why is Kathy always looking for trouble with Alex? She asked herself. I'm convinced Alex didn't do anything wrong. Kathy had already tapped 911. Just as she was about to press the call button, Mr. Morgan spoke up. "Don't call the police." "Mr. Morgan, you..." Debbie stuttered. Mr. Morgan interrupted her. "I still believe Alex and Debbie. Plus, there's no evidence that Alex took my bank card and stole the money." In Mr. Morgan's eyes, Alex and Debbie were two very honest students, and he just couldn't believe that they would do that. "Mr. Morgan, try to calm down," Mr. Berkeley advised. "Kathy and I came here tonight to ask you in detail about how you lost the money. Please tell us what happened." Mr. Morgan replied, "I keep my bank card inside the protective cover of my phone, and the PIN is written in my notebook. Yesterday, I couldn't find my phone, so I immediately went to the bank to freeze my account, and that's when I found out that the money had been stolen." Debbie's heart lifted when she heard him saying that he had lost his phone. She thought, I bet it's the phone that I found in the grass by the lake earlier. Subconsciously, she touched her pocket. Her action was noticed by the sharp-eyed Kathy. "What do you have in there?" Kathy asked, and she reached into Debbie's pocket. Ignoring her protests, she took out the phone. Seeing the phone in Kathy's hand, Mr. Morgan's eyes widened. "Why is my phone in your pocket, Debbie?"
Debbie was so nervous that she didn't know what to say. "Mr. Morgan, listen to me. I found this phone in the grass." Kathy retorted, "You're still denying it. If you found the phone, why were you so afraid of us seeing it?" Kathy pressed her. "What do you have to say now? We've caught you with Mr. Morgan's phone. This is solid proof. You and Alex are in on this together." "No, we're not. You guys are making a mistake," Debbie said helplessly. Right now, she really didn't know what she could say to convince them. "I'm making a mistake? What a joke." Kathy laughed arrogantly. "Then where do you think Alex got the money from? Why don't you tell us how you really got this phone?" "Alex won a lottery." Debbie tried her best to explain, but she couldn't stand up to Kathy. "Okay, Kathy, don't push her anymore." Mr. Morgan hugged Debbie to his chest with a pained heart.
All right, I'll leave her alone for now. Kathy glanced at Debbie with disdain. Now that one of the criminals has been caught, the other criminal will be even easier to find. Let's get back to school to find Alex. Very well, Mr. Berkeley agreed. He turned to Mr. Morgan and instructed, "Don't let her leave." Mr. Berkeley and Kathy drove back to the school as quickly as they could. During this time, Alex had sneaked into Mr. Morgan's office. He quietly walked to the teacher's desk and stuffed a written note inside the title page of a book on the desk. Just as he was turning to leave, the door opened and Kathy and Mr. Berkeley walked in. Alex was as shocked as they were. He had not expected to be discovered. Luckily, we checked the surveillance footage or we would have missed him. Kathy sneered as she looked at Alex. "Let me see what this scoundrel is doing." Mr. Berkeley walked to Mr. Morgan's desk and started leafing through the book. "Crap," thought Alex, and his chest tightened. He watched as Mr. Berkeley pulled out the note he had just stuffed inside the book. "What's this?" Mr. Berkeley opened the note and read aloud. "Mr. Morgan, I'm sorry. I'm the thief that took your money." "Alex, what do you have to say for yourself?" Mr. Berkeley asked as he held up the note. "The truth isn't what you're thinking," said Alex. "I was actually trying to help Mr. Morgan by writing this note. All Alex could do was to try to defend himself, whether they believed him or not. It's written so clearly on this paper, yet you're still trying to argue. You really are dumb." Kathy sneered as she looked at Alex. Now, she was feeling good. "Swindling Mr. Morgan out of $350,000. You'll serve 20 years for this." Kathy took out her phone and started to call 911. Mr. Berkeley stopped her and said, "Wait a moment. Let's take him to the hospital and confront Mr. Morgan with that girl. We'll see if he has the courage to face Mr. Morgan." Mr. Berkeley grabbed Alex, afraid that he would try to run away. Hearing that Debbie was also involved, Alex became afraid. Debbie's such a delicate person, he thought. How will she ever cope with this? He didn't think about his own situation at all. He only wanted to get back to Debbie's side to protect her. Look, Alex, you're this school's poster boy, excellent in athletics and education. I can't afford to let the world know that you are a thief. Our college's reputation is on the line. Mr. Berkeley tore up Alex's confession and continued, "It's my job to protect the integrity of this college, so do as I say." Kathy lashed out at Mr. Berkeley. "You are letting him go. That's not fair." "Kathy, do not question my judgment ever again," Mr. Berkeley said in a harsh tone and gave Kathy a cold stare. Kathy did not dare say another word. "Now, Alex," Mr. Berkeley said, pointing at him to take a seat. "Here's what you must do. We have CCTV footage of a person in a hood entering Mr. Morgan's office. You just have to agree with my public statement." "Yes, Mr. Berkeley. I will admit my crime," Alex said in an innocent tone. "You got me wrong, Alex. I'm going to announce that Debbie broke in and stole Mr. Morgan's password, and she took the money. But if you want to save her, you will do precisely what I say." "What?" Alex asked. He would do anything for Debbie. But when he heard the conditions that Mr. Berkeley put in front of him, Alex was left shell-shocked. "You can't be serious," said Alex. Mr. Berkeley smiled like a lecherous swine as he looked at Alex after placing his demand. "It's up to you, Alex. Let Debbie go to jail, or save her by following my instructions to the letter." But what Alex did next was not what they were expecting. Alex calmly took out his phone and looked at Mr. Berkeley. "What will it take for you to believe I'm not a thief?" "Oh, I don't know," said Mr. Berkeley, laughing. "How about $1 million in my bank account?" To Mr. Berkeley's surprise, Alex smiled and said, "Sure, I'll wire the funds. Or better yet, since you already think I'm a thief, how about I drain your bank account instead?" At that moment, Mr. Berkeley's phone buzzed. Who is Alex? A poor college student or secretly a billionaire? If he's rich, why has he been keeping it a secret?
To listen to the full audio series, install the Pocket FM app now.